Hello, and thank you for joining us here on the Neutral Zone. I am Phil Milani, joined as always by my trusty sidekick, my partner in crime. Really, the best way to describe this person is my everything. It's at Eric Dalala.
Phil, good to be with you on this Neutral Zone Thursday.
Thanks for joining me. Yeah, are you in a new studio there, a new home studio?
I am. As you can see, I've got a poster of the New York Yankees behind me.
You're so obsessed with New York.
I know, just can't get enough of it.
Yeah. Well, we got a great show in store for NZ Nation today. You know, we're in the second week of OTAs right now. Got us thinking, who could be the breakout player next season for the Broncos? Who could be like that Tim Patrick type of player, but next season for the Broncos? We'll give you some options. We'll break it down. I know that, Eric, you're a big fan of Draymond Jones.
I do. I think he could take a really nice step, but Phil, not the only guy that I think could be in that category.
Yeah. So we'll give you a couple of names who could be the breakout star for the Broncos next season. We'll also have a little interview with Michael Ojemudia. Maybe he's one of those guys, Eric. He was thrown into the deep end last year, a sink or swim type of situation. And, you know, Vic Fangio the other day said that he really liked where Michael Ojemudia was right now. He liked his mindset going through the offseason program here. So we'll catch up with the Broncos' second-year cornerback. And then, Eric, will wrap things up with a conversation about the AFC West. We'll take a look at the three other teams and, you know, what's going on with them and where the Broncos fit in that mix.
I like that. Always good to take a look and see what you're going to be dealing with, Phil. A lot of those games are toward the end of the season, but it's okay to take a look now in early June and see what the Broncos. I mean, are the Chiefs going to be good? Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. What's their quarterback situation like there in Kansas City?
I think they're having a competition. That's what I heard.
Your sources on the ground there.
Yeah, and Draymond Jones does not care about their competition either.
Yes, he does not care. He does not care about the Broncos competition. That's for sure.
Yes.
I think you asked that question, Eric, huh?
I did ask that question.
You got a certain way about you that just kind of makes these players pissed off. They're like, who asked that? Was that Eric Dalala?
That's true. I also got him to say he wanted 10 sacks this year. I get the headlines, Phil.
That's true.
One way or another.
You know how to press the buttons. You know, you calculate it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, hey, one thing's for sure. We heard George Payton during free agency and during the draft talk about building this roster with, you know, teams like Kansas City and the Las Vegas Raiders in mind. You know, he brought up Justin Herbert with the Chargers. You know, said, look, this is the conference. This is the reality. We got to play these guys twice a year, so we have to build a roster accordingly. So I think it's worth a conversation. Just what's going on with the AFC West. And eventually, if the goal is to make the playoffs, one way you could do that is by winning the division.
I've heard that's still allowed.
Is that a possibility though for the Broncos? I don't know. I don't know. So at the end of the show, we'll wrap things up with we got a great voicemail and a couple of emails we want to get to, plus some YouTube comments. Eric, why don't we just jump into the YouTube comments right now here, talking about last week's episode about our favorite Broncos feuds. Anthony Hall commented and said Elway versus Bernie Kosar. And then Brent Baldwin replied to that and said Elway versus Schottenheimer in general. That is a really good rivalry. We did not bring that up, but that's Elway versus Schottenheimer. I mean, Elway was that thorn in Schottenheimer's side his entire coaching career.
Absolutely.
That was a good one. Eric, somebody, Nutella Nasmella agreed with me, Cam Newton and Von Miller. Andrew Oliver said Von versus Rivers, Von versus Brady, Manning versus Brady, Manning versus Luck, Andrew Luck.
Oh, I was going to say, I think Manning's helping Luck.
I'm so used to just saying Lock now. So I forgot there used to be this guy who played very short period of time in the NFL, Andrew Luck.
That's true.
Not to be confused with Andy Luck, who is a big fan of the neutral zone.
That's right. And I think Andrew Luck had what, a 6 or 7 year career. I mean, not too short, Phil.
Shorter
Believe
than
he
I know some people were hoping for.
believe he was 3-1 against Peyton Manning, which is an interesting stat that
Okay,
certainly
this
you would
is
never
not
want
a
to bring
Colts
it.
podcast. Okay, Eric, this
I
is a
was simply
Broncos
I
podcast.
was simply mentioning why someone could consider it a rivalry.
Oh, got it. Got it. Diego Martinez says, "Can you guys do a podcast as Batman and Robin? Eric would be Boy Wonder naturally. Love the show. NZ Nation for life." I'm not sure. How would we do Batman and Robin, but you're Boy Wonder?
I don't know.
I don't understand.
Maybe you're Batman and Robin.
uh, there's also our trusty listener, Broncos Batman. You don't want to get confused with him. He says, "What if there was a rivalry between Phil and Eric?" That could never happen.
No, that's impossible. Doesn't make any sense.
That could never happen. Jinja Ninja 88 says, "Keep the intro. Don't let the haters change you. I love the show. Want to know if Matt Boyer can hop on the three amigos of the Broncos media team." What do you
Hmm.
think about that?
I who is Matt Boyer?
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to work.
Oh, that's the guy that is written specifically into our contracts that he cannot be on the neutral zone.
Yes, I
Yeah,
know that. Speaking of feuds, I mean, his feud with Ben Swanson, Ben Swanson just won't let him come on.
that's right. And it's gotten so contentious that Ben Swanson is just he had to take 2 weeks and just get away from the whole thing. That's why he hasn't made an appearance
In a long time.
in a long time. Yeah, it's really gotten to him.
That's because the last time they were in a room together, lawyers had to get involved. It was just really messy. So just to avoid that, that would be probably best.
Yeah.
And then we had also a lot of comments agreeing with you, Eric, that Talib and Crabtree was the best rivalry. So
It's probably because I was correct.
that's weird. You thinking that you're right. Eric, let's dive into our first topic of conversation here, and that is who could be the Broncos' breakout player of 2021. We can just dive in and start with the guy we mentioned at the beginning of the show, Draymond Jones. He's got certainly a good chance to be that guy.
Yeah, I think he's kind of the obvious answer here, just because he's going to move into a full-time starting role. I think he showed over toward the end of last season, just how dangerous he is, how capable he is. His 3.5 sacks over the final 4 games were the most by any player on the team. And then all 6.5 of his sacks, Phil, kind of came over those 11 games after he returned off IR. I don't know if people remember, but he didn't play very much the first 2 weeks, went to IR. And then when he came back, it was kind of around the time that Jarrell Casey was now gone, Mike Purcell. We know Shelby Harris missed some time. So Draymond Jones really got a chance to shine. And now as a full-time starter, Phil, I don't think it's unreasonable for him to get to 10 sacks, just because with Bradley Chubb and Von Miller on the outside, teams are going to pay so much attention to them that I think Draymond could get, he could have one of those like sneaky sacks where a quarterback has to step up and all of a sudden he's the one who picks it up. We saw DeMarcus Walker get some of those occasionally. I think Draymond Jones could really capitalize there. And if he gets 10 sacks on the season, Phil, he's going to be in the Pro Bowl conversation.
Yeah, and another reason really to like his development here is because of Bill Kollar. I mean, you've seen him work with guys like Shelby Harris, who, let's face it, when Shelby Harris joined the Broncos, nobody even knew who he was, and over the years working with Bill Kollar, really developed his game. And then you saw, the Broncos reward him with a contract this offseason. I do think that Draymond Jones is on a similar trajectory here where, first year got in just a little bit, last year a little bit more. Now he's ready to really maybe make that jump here. And he certainly has the body to do it, to really step into that starting role. He talked about working with his trainer this offseason. I think Mike Kliss asked him that question. And he said that I just become a grown man. He said something like that, I think, Eric.
Yeah, he said more of a man.
More of a man, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is something that both you and I do every offseason.
Well, I mean, difficult for you to kind of understand that. Hard for you to become more of a man than you already are, you know?
Practically impossible.
Exactly. With testosterone levels that high, it's just can't be done.
The only way probably is like if I just went out and lived in the woods the whole off season
Yeah, maybe bought a van.
and just maybe like just like survived with my own two hands.
Yeah, you and Quinn Miners could go live up on that island in Canada. That could be like your final step.
Eric, though, what would be possible for Draymond Jones? What does he need to do to become that breakout guy?
Well, he's got to stay healthy. Obviously, that's the first thing with any of these guys. But other than that, I think just kind of staying the course. He mentioned that football and basketball is a sport where you have to find rhythm, you know, and if he can keep that rhythm, I think it's just going to kind of come naturally. And I do think, I don't know if he's ever going to be a guy where, you know, like Vaughn can put together those 3 sack games. I don't know if Draymond is that guy, but I think he can consistently have a sack from week to week to week. And he has a knack for finding the quarterback, Phil, because you mentioned Shelby Harris, but Shelby Harris's best season from a sack standpoint came a couple of years ago. He had 6. And so Draymond Jones, kind of in this limited playing time, has 6.5. To me, that says this guy knows how to get to the quarterback. And so I think he just needs reps. He needs opportunities. And as a starter, he should have that. And I think one more thing that benefits him, Phil, is that I like the Broncos starting defensive line with Mike Purcell, Draymond Jones, and Shelby Harris. But behind them, you sort of have some questions, right? Like Shamar Stevens comes in as a free agent. You have McTelvin Agim. You draft Marquise Spencer. You've got Jonathan Williams, who I think am I getting that right? He obviously had a nice season there coming in. But, you know, there's not necessarily gonna be someone who's pushing, or sorry, Deshaun Williams, just blanking there.
Interception, diving interception, Cam Newton.
Exactly. But, you know, there's no like first round pick that's behind him trying to push him for playing time. And so I think he's going to get opportunities on big third downs. He's going to be out there, I would think, as kind of like that nickel pass rusher. So, yeah, I really think that he could have a big season. And I think it's possible, Phil, that I don't think he'll have more sacks than Chubb and Vaughn, but I think you could easily see him finish second ahead of one of those guys.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the revamped secondary behind him is going to help quarterbacks hold on to the ball longer and, allow for some more sacks here. And if you really look along that defensive line in the interior, everybody's sort of got their role. Shelby bats down the passes, Purcell stops the run. Why can't Draymond speed just get after the quarterback?
Yeah.
Hey, that's his specialty there. And, an interior pass rush has really become in vogue in the NFL where these quarterbacks get rid of the ball so quickly that you've got to just go straight up the middle if you want to try and get them in time. Did I say that wrong? In vogue?
No, that was perfect. My face was because you nailed that. And normally when you try to go for these sayings or these complicated combinations of words, something goes wrong. So I was really just proud, I think is one word, but
shocked.
Somewhat shocked. Phil, I'll say one more thing too, is when you're Vaughn or Bradley, you're going up against probably, teams put their most resources into a tackle because they know you have to combat either a 3-4 outside linebacker or a 4-3 defensive end. But then Draymond Jones is going to be going up against a guard or a center, depending on where he's lined up. And so to me, you look at some of the guards across the league, there's a wide variety. You'll play some teams where they're very good, but then it's often like a guard is kind of the weak spot, the guy that you plug and play. And so if he can take advantage of some of those matchups, that could be really beneficial to him too.
Yeah. So Draymond Jones, I definitely think is on the list for candidate of as Broncos breakout player of the year. Eric, on the other side of the ball, there's a couple of young guys that really come to mind. KJ Hamler could be in that role, and even rookie running back Javonte Williams could also be a breakout type of player. Breakout, you could say that for a rookie, right?
Oh, I think so. I think that's fair. Yeah. And here's a little clarification because I think Jerry Jeudy will take a big step this year, but he had too good of a rookie year to consider him in this quality. that's something that our friend Matt Boyer would do. He would say like Cortland Sutton would have been the breakout player of 2020 because he only had 1,200 yards in 2019.
Yeah, exactly. That's why Ben Swanson's getting upset if he's listening right now.
Yeah. But KJ, I think he showed you what he can do. That game against the Panthers obviously was special. He impressed me, Phil, with his toughness. I think there are a couple plays against the Dolphins and the Chiefs where he just got rocked and got right back up and was able to make contested catches. That to me is, maybe the most surprising thing is you knew he was going to have that speed. You knew he was going to have the game-changing playability, but to make contested catches over the middle, that could be big for this Broncos team. Thing with KJ, he's just got to stay out there. We know he's kind of battling it sounds like a relatively minor hamstring injury right now, but he's just got to stay on the field. And if he does that, Phil, I don't see him the same way I see Cortland or Jerry or even Tim Patrick, where you can count on like 5 to 7 catches a game. To me, it's like there might be some games where he just blows the top off a defense, has a couple of touchdowns, and then some games where he's quieter. But, if you have enough of those games, even if it's 5 games where he really takes advantage of a beaten up secondary, that's enough for me to consider him to take the step where you want him to be.
Yeah. And, normally if there's an opportunity, that's where you have a breakout player, like kind of like Tim Patrick last year when Cortland Sutton goes down. There's that opportunity there. The thing that KJ might be facing is that there's just not that opportunity to really step in. I know that Tim Patrick, talking earlier this week, said that he didn't look at it that way, that there was fewer catches to go around. He thought it's more of a positive that there's all these playmakers, just because it's going to open things up. But KJ is going to have to make the most of every single chance he gets. If he gets a couple of big plays in a game, he's going to have to turn that into some momentum for him, because there's just not. I mean, if you think about the playmakers this Broncos offense has, there might not be a team in the NFL that features the type of talent, from top to bottom like this Broncos team does.
Definitely. No, I agree with that.
Now, one position that you could sort of take the opportunity is at running back. If Javonte Williams, we know from Behind the Broncos, no shortcuts episode 4, Eric. Okay, we know from that the Broncos really like Javonte Williams. He was their top running back on their board. They traded up to get him. They clearly like this kid. So there is an opportunity there, maybe if he has a couple of big games early on or something like that, where he could seize the moment and really have a breakout season.
Yeah, and I already kind of have high expectations for him. And so maybe he's not like an unexpected breakout player, but I really do think he could come in and, I don't know, push 500 or 600 yards, have 5-6 touchdowns like that. He can be that guy. And it'll be interesting to see how the team uses him and Melvin Gordon, because a year ago, Phil, Melvin got almost every single touch inside the 10-yard line. He ended up with 9 rushing touchdowns. Philip Lindsay had 1, just because they went to Gordon again and again in those situations. I would think with the way Javonte Williams is built, that he's going to get some of those red zone touches. And so it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But yeah, I agree with you, Phil. I think he's going to make a near instant impact. A couple other, maybe one other guy that comes to my mind at least, is if Albert Okwuegbunam can stay healthy, he's going to be a good complement to Noah Fant, whether they're on the field together. We saw in that Chargers game when Albert O made some big plays, they just essentially rotated him every few plays. And so it wasn't like when they're in the red zone, Noah's in. So Albert should get these opportunities. He's big enough. He's got the frame you need. Hopefully he can haul in some of those contested catches next year. But I don't want to say the Broncos tight end room is thin, Phil, but you've got Eric Saubert, you've got Noah Fant, you've got Albert O, and then you've got kind of Andrew Beck as like that hybrid fullback tight end guy. But after that, I mean, it's going to be Noah Fant and Albert O in passing situations. And so, Noah's not going to play every single snap. You hope he stays healthy for the whole season, but obviously, that guys get dinged up and miss a game or two. So I think Albert O could have a nice season. And especially if Drew Lock is the quarterback, Phil, we saw how evident that chemistry is between the two of them.
Yeah. Talking about tight end, I'm sure that Noah Fant is hoping to have a breakout type of season, not like a Broncos breakout type of season, but hopefully like a breakout among like the elite tight ends in the NFL, where he's, considered in that conversation. And, he was even saying that the other day where he was saying, look, I got to have those hot moments. I've got to have that more consistently.
Right. And I think it's worth noting, like he was seventh, I think, in receptions among tight end, and eighth among, or sixth in yards, something like that. Like very between that 6 to 8 range for both of those categories. So it's not like he had a poor season, but I think you just see his potential when you have a half like that against Tennessee or a half like that against Pittsburgh, and you think, man, like he could be an all pro if you just went to him a little bit more. And so you're right. Again, he's kind of one of those guys like Judy that I expect big things out of, but I think at this point we know to expect that.
One last guy to talk about on offense, Eric, and that is maybe, do you think Drew Lock could have a breakout season?
He's going to need to. I mean, if he wants to play and be the guy moving forward, he's going to have to be a guy that we talk about a year from now as
Yeah.
he had the breakout season. Now whether that's possible or not, we'll have to see. I know that's kind of a hedge at this point, Phil, but we don't even know who's like. If I think if he earns the starting job, Phil, that probably means he's shown enough that yes, I would think at that point some sort of a breakout season would be likely, because if he earns a starting job, to me that means he's making those big plays down the field. He's avoided turnovers. He's figured out that mental aspect of the game that seemed to challenge him at points last year. And so if you have all of that, to me that means, hey, now he's playing quarterback well. And so at that point, that means that I think he can take a big step.
Eric, can I take this opportunity to just get something off my chest here?
Sure.
It's OTAs. It's June right now. People
Yeah.
are becoming a little bit too obsessive, in my opinion, about some of the highlights we put out. Last week, we put out a highlight where Justin Simmons made an interception. People were really reading into that. They thought maybe Drew Lock threw that based off of the footage. Earlier this week, people were raving about one play that Teddy Bridgewater threw a pass to Jerry Jeudy for a touchdown. But we need to just pump the brakes a little bit here. I don't want to sound like a coach, but like the media is only allowed to see 20 minutes of one practice during an entire week. Do you know what I mean? That is just not enough to really be hyping up one guy, ragging on another guy, having any kind of indicator here. We just need to chill out a little bit. In my opinion, it's one thing to do that in training camp, but right now, let's just say, hey, these guys are out here trying to learn and trying to get ready so that when it is time to really compete, when the pads are on, when it's a preseason game, let's judge that. But right now, let's not dive into who had a really good day, who threw an interception, who made a touchdown. We need to just sort of chill out a little bit.
Wow.
Is that okay?
You've been holding that in, I think.
Yes.
It's been bothering you. I can tell.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you what, if we wanted to edit highlights that made it look like one quarterback was just dominating, that would be really easy to do. So it's just they're just out there trying to learn this playbook and trying to grow and trying to improve. Like Vic Fangio said, the competition will play out in August.
Right.
Okay?
Well, yeah, and that's true. I do understand that, fans have not seen football in 5 months or 6 months, and it's more irresponsible of the media, I think, because
Yes.
you talk about Teddy Bridgewater touchdown, for example. Well, Teddy also threw some incompletions. Teddy also had a couple of passes that were nearly picked. Like you talk about all of that and you see all that, and then the media frames it as, well, here's one play that is really, really good. And if you're a fan, you don't know the rest of that context, and you think, man, Teddy must have already won the job. You're right from that standpoint, but I do understand why fans are so interested. We like that they're interested.
No,
But
the
yeah, I
fans
mean, their decision.
that I'm good with the fans being excited because that is the hot topic, is this quarterback competition, and it's only going to get hotter. But I don't have a problem with the fans reading into it. It's the other media members who are pointing out every little thing. It's just a little bit much.
You want to blast anybody by name, or you want to keep going on?
No, I don't need to stoop to your level, maybe, but just
even do anything there.
Just kidding. No, I don't need to name anybody by name, but there are. If you're listening, you know who you are.
Yeah.
You know who you are. Because the bottom line is like, who knows what Drew Lock did today at practice? Do you know what I mean? He could have just lit it up, and the media is not out there to see that. So like, I just think that we just need to like chill out a little bit on that. Is that okay? That's not too.
I won't tweet anything today about practice.
Eric, one last player to talk about on the other side of the ball. Maybe you can't even consider him an option for this breakout conversation, but maybe Pat Surtain the second. Do you think that, like, if he came out and had like 5 interceptions, like something crazy like that, then you would be like, wow, that was really a breakout rookie season. You think that he's in the running for that?
Yeah, I don't know if I quite consider those guys in like the same category, you know.
You like the guy who's under the radar who kind of emerges.
Yeah, and I think it's just hard to be under the radar as a top pick. But
Yeah.
if Pat Surtain has 5 interceptions as a rookie, we might be saying he's the best player on the team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that would be a breakout rookie season, I think.
Yes, yeah, he would have exceeded expectations, even though I think they're pretty high as it is.
Yes, the way that people have been building him up, you like hear Bryce Callahan talk about him, Justin Simmons, Von Miller. It kind of reminds me of during training camp last year, guys talking about Jerry Judy, talking about the
Yeah,
running and stuff. You get a similar vibe from some of the other defenders this year.
yeah. I heard that during one OTA practice, I watched like 5 minutes of it, and he had like a nice play, and so then I tweeted about it, and then you got mad.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Uh, Eric, let's get to one guy who has been flying under the radar this offseason, and that's because the Broncos have really brought in a lot of defensive backs. And sitting there is last year's third round pick, Michael Ojemudia. He was really thrown into the deep end, thrown into the fire last year. Uh, and, people maybe jumped to conclusions about him from his play last year, but he was guarding some of the best wide receivers in the league last year, Eric, as a rookie. The Broncos go out and get all these defensive backs, and now we're wondering or sort of forgotten about Michael Ojemudia. What's his role? How's he going to play? I had a chance to catch up with him after practice the other day, and here's that conversation. All right, Michael, how does it feel out there year two? You feel a little bit different than this time last year?
I definitely feel a lot better. I feel like I got more confidence because I know the defense a little bit more, and so I can just play freer and make some more plays.
Last year, you really got thrown into the fire, but do you feel like that was a good learning experience for you as a rookie?
It definitely was because when I look at the tape, I know exactly what I did wrong, and I was a little ahead of myself sometimes, but now in year two, I'm a little more calm.
I mean, you were guarding some of the best wide receivers in the league. I mean, what kind of things did you feel like you learned now that you could work on this offseason?
Definitely just a lot of things about technique, composure, and just using your guys, knowing where your help is. So being thrown in the fire was definitely good for me. It's going to help me down the road.
We heard from Vic Fangio yesterday. He said that he's really liked your mindset, that they've been working you inside, outside. Where do you feel most comfortable out there?
Man, both, man. I can play in the box, I can play anywhere, and I'm just having a different mindset this time around. So anytime I can get on the field, I'm trying to compete for a spot.
They brought in a lot of other defensive backs this offseason. What was your approach to that?
I mean, it honestly put a fire under me, man. I'm excited, and I get to play with the best and learn at your best. So every day you're going to be on it.
You feel like you can, like, hey, Ronald, like, let me ask you a couple things here. Even Pat Surtain coming in as a rookie.
I've learned something from both of them already, Pat and Ronald. I talked to him a lot, and we got a good thing going. So I'm really excited to get Kyle in and just learn from him, too.
All right, Michael, appreciate your time, man.
Appreciate it, guys.
My thanks to Michael Ojemudia for spending a little bit of time after practice the other day there. He said he got a little fired up when the Broncos went out and brought some of these guys, but he's looking at a chance to really learn from them. And he said he's even learned from Pat Surtain, a rookie coming in, but he's just here to pick everybody's brain. And I'm sure that that's why Vic Fangio says he likes his mindset right now.
Yeah, I view Michael's role right now as one for the future. Like, I think ideally this year, in base, you want some combination of Ronald Darby, Kyle Fuller, Pat Surtain out there, and then in nickel, you probably want Callahan out there too, especially in dime when you can get all four of those guys on the field, which the Broncos, it sounds like, will play a lot of. And really, for Michael Ojemudia to get out there, it would either require him to just absolutely blow people away in the preseason or training camp, or for injuries to happen. And so I do think he can be a good depth piece at times, which, inevitably, again, Phil, one of these guys will miss a game or two. Hopefully not any more than that. But Michael Ojemudia goes from being a starter last year to now being a really valuable depth piece. But future, when you think about that, Kyle Fuller's on a 1-year deal. Bryce Callahan is entering the last year of his contract. Vic Fangio said that they're teaching Michael Ojemudia to play inside in both nickel and dime packages. And so you think about that and you say, okay, well, they threw him into the deep end too early. Those were Vic Fangio's words. This year is a chance for him to step back, to learn, and then maybe in 2022, he has a better chance to be like a really solid, consistent contributor. While this year maybe he focuses on learning and plays some special teams and is kind of a depth guy. That to me is, in my head, Phil, that's what makes sense.
Yeah, when you really think about it, huh? That's what
Exactly.
I think. Special teams is where he's gonna see the most playing time, of course. Uh, Cornerbacks, like I'm not sure, if they need a breather or something, a few plays here or there. He's probably that first guy off the bench in some of those situations. I know that Asang Bassi is working his way back. He's certainly going to be in the mix when he's fully healthy. So Ojemudia, I think, is taking the right approach here. Don't be upset by these things. Try and learn from some of these guys. Kyle Fuller has not been at practice right now, so that provides an opportunity for Ojemudia to maybe get some additional reps here and there. So hopefully he's taking this time to reset, learn from last year, because I do think that to be able to play cornerback at a really high level, you got to have a lot of confidence, and you can't sort of shy away from things or be nervous about getting burnt. And I don't think that Ojemudia's confidence is shaken right now. I think that he's okay. Withstood that first year, and we'll see what the future holds for him. And maybe he's out there on a play where Kyle Fuller's getting a breather and makes a big play or something like that, or makes a big play on special teams and gets that recognition. So
Definitely. I mean, we saw he had a knack for forcing fumbles last year. So at the very least, he's a guy that has starting experience that you can count to or count on if you need to. So um, the thing I like is that a year ago, you trade away Isaac Yadam, who probably by week 5 would have been a starting cornerback because of all the depth issues you have. I could really see the Broncos just kind of keeping all these pieces in place. Obviously, can't keep every single person on the roster that's there right now, but just keeping some of these strong reserve guys so that late in the season you're not, dealing with the same issues you were a year ago or the year before that.
yeah. Well, that's another thing we've heard Peyton really talk about is depth and special teams, and Ojemudia fits that bill. So definitely a guy who's going to be in the mix down the line.
Yep.
Eric, let's get to our final topic of conversation on this episode of the Neutral Zone, and that is the state of the AFC West. And I think any conversation about what's happening in this division got to start with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, and Phil, the some people said at the end of the season, like, there's a blueprint to beat the Chiefs now. They're not invincible anymore. Well, then they go out and they renovate their entire offensive line and add some really impressive players. They trade for Orlando Brown to play left tackle. They've got Joe Thuney at left guard. Duvernay Tardif comes back at right guard. Mike Remmers might be kind of the only weak spot there at right tackle. But I mean, for the most part, they've done what they needed to do. They still have Tyreek Hill and McCole Hardman and Travis Kelce, and of course Patrick Mahomes. They're going to be as good as ever, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you looked at that Super Bowl, the offensive line was really the struggling point there, and the Bucks were really able to take advantage of that. So Maybe I thought there was a blueprint there. I think I definitely said something like that at some point. That sounds like something I would have said, Eric.
It
But
does. It does.
you do have to have the personnel to be able to do what the Bucks did. I mean, they've got two
Yes.
outstanding inside linebackers, and the Chiefs' offensive line was hurting. They've revamped that area, and I think that I heard Patrick Mahomes earlier this week say something that was like the only record he's going for is a perfect season. I didn't like that. I didn't like hearing that.
No, I don't like that.
I don't like
I,
that.
I will say, Phil, they're a little bit thinner at their skill positions than they've been. So they've, in the past, they've kind of been able to absorb a few weeks of a loss to Tyreek Hill or whoever. But with Sammy Watkins gone, maybe that's not quite as easy of a task.
Yeah, definitely. But they're still definitely the favorites heading into the season to win the division and probably be the best team in the AFC West,
Yeah.
in the entire AFC. I mean.
Yep.
So let's move out west, Eric, and talk about this Chargers team. They're really went through a major change. Anthony Lynn out, Brandon Staley in at head coach, and that's really going to change the whole atmosphere as Justin Herbert heads into year two.
Yeah, I mean they're scary, Phil. They've been rumored as one of those potential spots for Julio Jones, and if you were to add him to a receiving group that includes Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, they would then be really good. We obviously know both of those guys are good already. Eckler's been solid at running back. Offensive line is what they targeted in the first round with Rashawn Slater, and then that defense is just absolutely packed with talent. Their issue has been staying healthy and kind of bad luck, to be honest. And they're the team that scares me, Phil. I think that if Herbert continues to play as well as he did last year, the Broncos, I would probably sign up for a split with the Chargers. I mean, I think they're going to be one of the better teams in the AFC West, maybe even the entire AFC. But I know you maybe have some concerns about Herbert's ability to do that in a new system.
I do. Not a concern necessarily, but just something to watch for. I
Yeah.
mean, you can even just look at, I know this is a smaller sample size, but Drew Lock's first year, those 5 games, maybe you thought, okay, heading into his second year, he was really going to explode out of those 5 games. They had a system change, new offensive staff comes in, and things didn't quite go as hoped for last season for Drew Lock. I think that anytime you change the staff like that, it's always worth watching. Obviously Justin Herbert was developing at a stellar rate there under the previous staff. So now you make these changes, just something to watch for, just to see how quickly does he pick up the new system. Obviously he has the physical tools. I mean, obviously some of the passes he made last season were out of this world. So he's got that. Now it's just hey, how quickly can everything come together under a new staff? It'll be interesting to see Vic Fangio going up against Brandon Staley, though. That'll be kind of a cool, little sidebar there to those matchups.
Yeah, no, definitely. And he's obviously had kind of a meteoric rise since being the Broncos outside linebackers coach a couple of years ago. Um, to me, their defense, Phil, is almost like the Broncos offense in that there's so much potential. You just have to kind of figure out, is it going to work? Is it going to fit in? They do have a thin defensive line. So if you're the Broncos, and George Payton has said we want to run the ball, you think maybe that's an area where the Broncos could have an edge. But you've got Joey Bosa, you have Kenneth Murray, who didn't play super well as a rookie last year, but it's a first round pick. Of course, we know Chris Harris's potential if he can just continue to play like he has. Who knows? At some point, Phil, you'd imagine a guy who's his age will stop playing at that high level, but who knows when that is. They get Asante Samuel Jr. Derwin James, of course, has all this talent and hasn't stayed healthy. So to me, they've got the pieces there on defense, but particularly, maybe excluding their defensive line. But it'll be interesting to see how that unit matches up with the Broncos offense, because I do think at times last year, Denver's offense was better than the Chargers defense. There were too many mistakes in that second game in LA, and that's really what doomed Denver.
Yeah, there was a chance to win that game, but too many mistakes, like you mentioned. And of course, that fourth quarter comeback here in Denver was maybe the highlight of last season for this Broncos team. The last team to obviously talk about here is the Las Vegas Raiders heading into year 4 under John Gruden. Probably not the way they had hoped. The first 3 years had gone there. No playoff experience there for the Raiders. Derek Carr back again at quarterback. What do you think about this Raiders team right now?
Yeah, I think that they're a team that Denver needs to sweep if they want to make the playoffs. And I think that Denver on paper looks better than them. There's only a couple of positions, Phil, where I really look and I think, man, the Raiders are better there. I mean, you could look at tight end and that's probably one of those spots, but it's really not even a huge gap if Noah Fant can take advantage of his potential compared to Darren Waller. But I mean, Henry Ruggs right now, and that'll continue for years, Phil, who made the right decision there. But right now, it looks like Jerry Jeudy is a better player, better fit in the NFL than Henry Ruggs, who struggled to stay healthy. Their receiving core is pretty thin. Josh Jacobs, obviously, a really, really good player. But they just kind of every year there's like a decision that you're like, I don't quite understand it. They traded away a bunch of their offensive linemen and then spent, I think, the 17th pick on Alex Leatherwood, who everyone thought would be there in the second round. They took a bunch of safeties. Their linebackers haven't been as good as maybe they thought they would have been when they signed him a year ago. In Corey Littleton and Nick Witkowski, even Jonathan Abrams, Phil, who I think if he stayed healthy a little bit more, it was like a little bit better, he would probably be among the more hated players by Broncos fans, just because who did he hit really hard last year that it was like, it's not quite dirty, but it was,
He's always that
close.
guy. He's got a little extra to say after the play's over.
Yeah.
He plays with a lot of fire, a lot of energy out there. And after the play's over, he likes to let you know about it. So yeah, I do agree. He, of course, got hurt his first game ever against the Broncos out there in Oakland.
Right.
So yeah, I do think he's got definitely a lot of hateable qualities from a fan's perspective. I would say that one of those guys you like on your team, but you don't like to go up against.
Yes,
that's what he's kind of like.
But I just think, with as much talent as the Broncos have, you can't have games against the Raiders like the one you did in Las Vegas last year, where you just give it to them. I mean, you can't do that if you want to make the playoffs.
That's right. So then, like, the last point to get to here is when we're talking about the AFC West is where do you think the Broncos stack up on paper right now? I mean, of course, all of these teams are heading into the season with a lot of optimism. They're excited about their young guys. They're just like Broncos fans who are hoping that some of these players with potential are going to take that step. I mean, that's how almost every fan base feels in the NFL at this point. But on paper, where do you think this Broncos team stacks up?
Yeah, I think probably third at this moment. I think behind the Chiefs and the Chargers. But I certainly think that the Broncos, if they win the games they're supposed to, and you get a little bit better quarterback play, that you're going to be jockeying with the Chargers the whole season, probably, and I just think the Chiefs are maybe a little too far away at this point. But I would think one of the Chargers or Broncos would get a playoff spot. And so it's just kind of, where are you in that mix? Maybe it does come down to something as crazy as a fourth quarter comeback. But one thing that worries me a little bit, and obviously Justin Herbert made some mistakes last year, but the Broncos used to get these comebacks against the Chargers, Phil. Like, I think about the one, I believe, in 2018, where Philip Rivers just made some kind of confusing mistakes, where he threw a right to Vaughn, and then he throws an incompletion instead of letting the clock run by taking a sack, and gives Denver these chances. I don't know if, under a new coaching staff, a new quarterback, if that'll happen necessarily. So I hope that they still give Denver a treat here and there, but Philip Rivers, he was very kind in that regard.
Sometimes organizations are like that, where it's not even just a player, it's just an organization. And for some reason, the way the universe aligns in that moment when they face the Broncos, these games sort of end up like that. It's sort of like how Broncos Raiders in Denver usually ends up down to the wire. Things like
2-point conversion. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That tends to happen for some reason. I'm not sure why. I think that if you remove quarterback from the equation, the Broncos roster elsewhere is stacks up there with the rest of the conference, or definitely with the rest of the division. I think that they're right up there. And when you introduce the most important position probably in all of sports, that's where you're not sure quite what's going to happen with this Broncos team. But if they get better quarterback play, I certainly think that they could finish second in the division for sure. And maybe something would have to go terribly wrong for the Chiefs to not win the division. But,
I thought you were going to say unless something crazy happens, then maybe they could go 15-2 and win the division. Something outside of our control. Yes.
Broncos? Oh, yeah. If something crazy out there happened now that it's what month is it, Eric?
I think it's June.
If something crazy happened like that, then I could see the Broncos going 15-2, maybe something like that. I don't know what you're talking about though.
Just something crazy. We don't know what it would be, but something.
Yeah, something crazy. So, Eric, let's get to our favorite part of the show, and that is shout outs. We like to shout out all kinds of different people in the organization. Anybody that you'd like to highlight, Eric?
Well, we've got some great listeners we want to shout out, of course.
Yes, that is a good way to start this year. We always appreciate our listeners. We want to make this an interactive show. And guess what? You guys come through every single week. We've got an email here from Jay Johnson. He says, I always enjoy you guys, all the content that you provide. He's a lifelong Broncos fan, a South Stands season ticket holder. Okay, that just lets you know what kind of person you're talking about. There's regular season ticket holders, Eric, and then there's South Stands season ticket holders. And this guy lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Jay Johnson. He drives up to watch Broncos games ever since 1986. Okay, that's a long time, Eric. 12 hours round trip. He does it for every home game. And we're happy to tell Jay Johnson that he's going to be able to do that once again this year.
Yeah, full capacity for Broncos games. That'll be nice, Phil. It's I've missed kind of that buzz before kickoff, and then kind of the excitement you get when a big play happens. So it'll be nice to have that back.
Yes, we're excited that Jay Johnson gets to come up. Definitely miss the fans, and I think that the first game it's going to be pretty awesome when they face the Jets there in that home opener. Really looking forward to that. Eric, I know our next email here, John Jornad, one of your biggest fans out there, one of my biggest critics, mentioned that he had been struggling with coronavirus. So we want to wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully he gets better here pretty soon.
That's true, Phil. We obviously want everyone out there to stay safe. But he did go on to have an extensive breakdown of our pre-draft predictions. He essentially doubts that you actually predicted the Broncos would take Pat Surtain. We don't have another hour of airtime here, so we won't be able to go into the full email. But
yeah,
just know that people out there are watching, Phil, and they're keeping you in check.
They're skeptical.
Yes.
I do have evidence to back it up, but I don't want to get into it. I don't.
Yeah, he does too, it sounds like.
I guess if I make enough projections, you could just sort of at one point say, oh, look, I was right. But
that's correct.
Okay. In the final episode before the draft, I said, okay, who's your final prediction? And I said, Pat Surtain. So you know that, right, Eric? You admit that or not?
I do. He believes that you took that from me, which I won't deny. So probably best to move on.
Yeah, let's move on. Okay, and we do have one voicemail to play here, a special one from our friend in New York.
Hi, this is Tom calling for Eric, the Paperboy Delala. Thank you so much for your excellent interviews and asking 2 questions when really most reporters only get the opportunity to ask 1. Way to sneak that in. I noticed you're slick at that. And for your cohort, He is the forget about it with his gold chain. Don't read this on the air, please. Anyway, huge Broncos fan. I don't want to talk too long because that last time I did that, you said that it cut off and some guy called and that was me. This is Tom. Grew up a New York Broncos fan. I'm almost 50 now and I love the Broncos. Thank you for your great work. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you very much for that voicemail, Tom. Always appreciate when our listeners all across the country, all across the world, leave a voicemail. 707 neutral is how you could do that. Eric, he called you the paper boy.
That's okay. He also noticed my ability to sneak 2 questions in. Not for everybody. A rookie couldn't do that. A rookie R, got to be an experienced R to get 2 questions in like that.
Yeah.
And get them both answered. Sometimes you ask 2 and one of them just gets left behind. They'll mute me on Zoom when I'm ready to be muted. I think that's the thing. But I think when you send in a voicemail and you say, don't play this, we're definitely going to play it. So
Yes, sorry. That is how that has to happen.
that's okay. I did like his speed at the end of the voicemail. Got very efficient.
Yes.
Got everything in.
He said, my nickname is Forget About It. And Gold Chain, I think. So I appreciate it.
I don't know if he was pulling off the Al Davis thing or what.
I don't have the tracksuit on today, Eric.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. That's only for the home episodes. I'm in the office today. I got to be a little more professional.
That's right. Can't wear that there.
If you're confused about the 2-question thing with Eric, that's because that's in the Zoom press conferences. Obviously, Tom likes to watch the full press conferences that we post on DenverBroncos.com, or he's watching them live like real fans do. And that's when you get 2 questions in, Eric.
Yeah.
Very impressive. Maneuvering, the skill it takes to raise your hand function on Zoom is really impressive.
They recently moved to the raise your hand function on Zoom and it threw some people off, but not me.
No, you're always one step ahead. You're playing chess. Everyone else is playing checkers. You're like the Bill Belichick of the R world.
Exactly. That's correct.
Yeah. 707 neutral. That's how you could leave a voicemail and you could be a part of the show just like Tom. Eric, how else can people get involved?
Well, let's see. neutralzoneshow@gmail.com. You could leave an email there. You can tweet at us at Eric Dalala with an A, at Phil Milani with a PH, non-traditional spellings.
Yeah.
Or you could tweet at Broncos Podcasts.
That is one weird way that we rarely mention, but yes.
Yeah, that's true. Or you could, so I think you could leave a comment right here on YouTube.
Yeah.
You could also smash that subscribe button.
We like it when people watch on YouTube.
Yes.
This is our favorite way of communicating. And if you're on here and you're enjoying the content, just go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Yeah.
Exactly.
Just do it. Just do it.
What are you waiting for?
Yeah. Just do that. Just do that. So yes, we do enjoy the YouTube comments there. Eric, we weren't going to forget to shout out Liz Manis.
Liz, parenthesis Manis, parenthesis Gerald's.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Gerald's.
Yeah.
That's going to take some time for me.
That will.
I'll get used to it, though. I'll get there.
That will. The artist formerly known
As Liz Manis.
as Liz Manis.
Back on the Zooms. I believe this Friday is the Denver Day of Service. So
Yeah, that's true.
we'll be out in the community all across Denver. So we're back out there. Eric. I also personally would like to give a quick shout out to the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. The sports scene here in Denver right now is buzzing, Eric.
Phil, as a lifelong Nuggets fan, I actually was in attendance as Damian Lillard tried to ruin your week, but Jokic just wouldn't let that happen.
Yeah, big game coming up tonight. We'll have to see who if they can quickly turn around just one day in between games, Eric.
Yeah. Really tough for these teams to have to play once every 2 days.
And you got to travel. Come on, that is. And it went to double overtime. Come on, this is going to be big time. If the Nuggets pull this one out on the road, that would be very, very impressive.
Yeah, they'd probably have to end the series if that happened.
It's very cool too that Nikola Jokic, probably the MVP in the NBA, and then on the ice, Nathan McKinnon is without a doubt the best player in the NHL right now. The man is on fire, and it's awesome to watch. Might have the two best players in respective sports right here in Denver. And at least for Jokic, the player who had the best season,
Yeah.
most valuable season. So very cool time to be a Colorado sports fan. I'll say that right now. And the excitement about the quarterback competition is right there. So we'll be back next week with another episode of The Neutral Zone. Until then, though, for Eric Dalal, I am Phil Milani. You've been listening to
The Neutral Zone.